I think the senator enjoyed more than anything all of the wonderful people that he got to meet over the years in Indian country, which was new to him when he assumed the chair of the Indian Affairs Committee. And it brought him great joy to develop so many friendly relationships and deep friendships over the years. Our next speaker is Julie Kitka, the president of the Alaska Federation of Natives. Julie?
Thank you, Patricia, and thank you, everyone. We're truly honored to be participating in this seminar. My name is Julie Kitka, and I am honored to serve as the president of the Alaska Federation of Natives. Our nation loved a great man in Senator Daniel Inouye. He was an incredible leader, a steady voice for truth and justice. He fought tirelessly from the fields of battle to the halls of Congress, making innumerable contributions to the very fabric of our nation's policy framework. He was a dear friend to many of us here today, one of those individuals who could be both gentle and caring and strikingly honest and dauntless in his pursuit of a goal. I believe he's with us today in spirit, smiling and listening, always full of deep respect. We all remember his respect for us and everyone he interacted with. We have a unique vantage point in our working relationship with Senator Inouye. He was the best friend and colleague of our own Alaskan Senator Ted Stevens. They both called each other brother and showed us how bipartisanship really worked. It was because of this close relationship that I was honored to get to know Senator Inouye. My life has been enriched immensely by knowing him and working closely with him for years, him and Senator Stevens. I'm really pleased today to contribute to a gathering that perfectly honors Senator Inouye's memory, not looking back with sorrow for the loss of this great man, but looking forward to celebrate the life and accomplishments of a man who dedicated himself to serving his country, his community at home in Hawaii, all across the nation and around the globe. Senator Inouye saw the world around him through clear eyes, and although he must have had regrets from time to time, as we all do, he never let doubts or regrets cloud his focus on building a better future. Where he saw wrong, he worked to make right. Where he saw opportunities unrealized, he dedicated himself to supporting those in need. Senator Inouye will always hold a special place in our hearts and memories. He was an inspiration and a beloved champion for Native peoples from Hawaii to Alaska and across Indian country. We are all deeply grateful for all his accomplishments and especially for the foundation he laid for continued progress. I came to know Senator Inouye, as I mentioned, many decades ago through his friendship with Senator Ted Stevens. Their relationship brought Alaska and Alaska Native issues to Senator Inouye's attention, and he was quick to see the many parallels between the experiences and needs of Native Hawaiians and Alaska Natives. He was quick to take action and to take on our issues as his own, and his great legacy of progress is testament to his uncanny ability to turn ideas into action. Almost exactly 5 years ago this month, in early May of 2011, we hosted a conference with Senator Inouye here in the Capitol on the legal empowerment of Indigenous peoples. As was typical of this amazing man, he didn't just support the conference and agree to attend. He opened his doors to us and hosted the event under the Capitol Dome itself and allowed us to host a reception in the offices of his Senate Pro Tem office. With the very act of opening his doors, he demonstrated the depth of his support for Native peoples and his genuine dedication to advancing protections of our rights and well-being. He stated at the conference, "We are holding this conference on the legal empowerment of Indigenous people here in the center of the power of the U.S. government to show you how much you are part of the United States and welcome in the center of this country." Senator Daniel Akaka told us at the time, also a colleague of his from Hawaii, the U.S. Senate Appropriations Committee has never allowed any conference to be held in their offices, let alone a conference put on by and for the benefit of Native Americans. It just isn't done. Further, Senator Inouye welcomed our international guests and speakers, including world-renowned Peruvian economist Hernando de Soto. We were all anxious to make connections with the international legal empowerment movement led by Hernando de Soto and former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright. This conference brought together indigenous rights, property rights, and the main tenets of legal empowerment. It was a practical event that also focused on ways that the Obama administration could implement the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People here in the United States. Legal empowerment, in our view, remains critical to the advancement of our rights and Senator Inouye's legacy. Senator Inouye loved our country despite personal challenges of unbelievable levels of discrimination. He never wavered in his belief in the greatness of the United States. He understood that we lived in a great country governed by the rule of law, and it was the law that could be used most effectively to advance Native people in the United States. Our work on legal empowerment fit right in with his lifelong beliefs of how to effect change. Legal empowerment can be defined as a process that increases a person's capacity to use the law, the legal system, and legal services in order to protect their rights and interests as citizens. Legal empowerment increasingly is recognized as an important tool for poverty reduction and economic development, and was, in our view, a centerpiece of Senator Inouye's support for our people in his final years. Indigenous people have faced centuries of discrimination and threats to our basic rights to ancestral property, languages, culture, forms of governance, and basic social services such as education, health, nutrition, water and sanitation, and housing. These are the rights that Senator Inouye dedicated himself to protecting. These rights that Indigenous people seek are basic human rights, rights conferred on us as citizens by the law. Alaska Native and Indigenous tribal communities provide a distinct and remarkable real-life case study in the way Native communities can interact with the federal and state governments and can participate in economic and social development while preserving traditional ways of life and wisdom. With Senator Inouye and Senator Stevens very often at the table, or indeed in the lead, Alaska Natives have resolved many thorny issues of land claims and revenue sharing with hydrocarbon and other natural resources with the federal and state governments. As many of you know, the Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act of 1971 authorized the formation of 12 regional for-profit corporations that would have title to the surface area and subsurface minerals of land selected for development across our state, up to a total of 44 million acres. Villages in each region could also create their own corporations, and the village corporations would retain surface title to local lands as part of the settlement. Monetary compensation for lands given up by our people totaled $962.5 million, about half from funds supplied by Congress and half from mineral revenues collected on state and federal lands. ANCSCA was a congressional experiment never tried before in U.S. history. A key element in this experiment was that economic organization was separated from political organization. Alaska Natives were given the corporation model as a tool for our efforts to build economies. Our experience with the corporate model has shown that the corporate model is very adaptable and a strong model to engage in the larger economy of the United States and even the world. For Indigenous people, or at least for Alaska Natives, this was something very new. We have had a very steep learning curve and have made many, many mistakes along the way, but we have also had many successes. This settlement between Native Americans and the United States government enabled Alaska Natives to retain a portion of our original lands and to exercise real self-determination. Previous treaties and settlements involved lands and assets held in trust for Native people by the federal government and controlled by the BIA. The 44 million acres of land retained by Alaska Natives and the nearly 1 billion granted to Alaska Native people are controlled by Native boards of directors of Alaska Native corporations, and we have complete control over our assets and complete risk of failure and loss of our land and resources. So it's a double-edged sword. Passages of ANCSCA was only the beginning. ANCSCA is a living document which has been amended many times already at the request of Alaska Native people themselves and likely will be amended many more times. Senator Inouye was involved in listening to our concerns, whether they were about land protections for our undeveloped lands, opening our corporate shareholder roles to descendants, allowing special benefits for our elders, or removing congressional deadlines for requiring the recall of corporate restricted stock and the reissuance of stock which was fully alienable. Senator Inouye was involved with each of us on these concerns and more. He always invited us to strategize and think ideas through, and then he stepped up to help us achieve our goals. Whether or not we needed him to contact senior members of the administration, OMB, or other members of Congress, or if we needed a congressional hearing to set the stage for action, Senator Inouye was there. I don't think you can understand how much of our success rests with Senator Inouye's efforts. ANCSCA was intended to meet the real socioeconomic needs of Alaska Natives as defined by us, needs that change over time. We will continue to work with the Congress and the administration on implementation of ANCSCA and adapting the law to work for our people. Our efforts will continue until our traditional ways of life are fully protected, we have space to live our lives and continue our traditions, and we have growing viable economies to support our people. ANCSCA extinguished Aboriginal title, but left unresolved important questions regarding tribal sovereignty, native hunting, fishing, and gathering rights. It did not allow for the collective rights of Alaska Native peoples to consent to the terms of the Act, an essential element of self-determination under international law. ANCSCA was a property rights settlement which did not speak explicitly to governance issues at all. Glaring deficiencies in the settlement include the failure to provide a self-governance option or to protect native hunting, fishing, and gathering rights. In hindsight, as we look at it, a whole host of other issues that could have been included in the settlement, but which were inadvertently left on the table in the haste to settle Aboriginal land claims. Land was a central issue to our people at that time. Alaska Natives wanted that in the settlement, and a concentrated focus had to remain on the land so as not to see the acreage dwindle in the process. Various proposals in the settlement had dramatically much smaller amounts of land. Senior officials at the Nixon White House played a key role in advancing the final amount of land which would be in ANCSCA. Conversations with these key officials many years later showed the intersection of national civil rights issues, including the American Indian Movement, AIM, and different White House approaches taken with reservation leadership. The rapid social and cultural change going on in the country affected so much the list of possibilities in our settlement. Discovery of Prudhoe Bay oil was a major driver. Prudhoe Bay was to become the largest oil field in the United States and North America. The amount of recoverable oil in the field was to be more than double that of the next largest field in North America. Clear access to develop the Prudhoe Bay oil discovery and transport it meant that land claims needed to be settled. In our view of history, at that point in time, it was not possible to obtain more. The bundle of tribal rights that were not addressed in ANCSCA, which are taken for granted by tribes in the lower 48, including those that generally apply within Indian country. They include the favorable treatment given to tribal enterprises that we didn't get for ANCSCA corporations, such as exemption from taxation, adequate long-term funding for Alaska Native people from federal offshore oil and gas development in areas traditionally used and occupied by us, co-management of federal public lands in Alaska with Native landowners, and federal investment in education instead of turning it over to the state of Alaska and requiring our Native students to excel under a system in which they have limited or no control. The failure to address these tribal rights has resulted in years of litigation over tribal sovereignty and tribal jurisdiction. Though the fundamental rights to participate in decision-making, consent, intergenerational rights, development, and a wide range of other rights were not contemplated within the terms of ANCSCA, Alaska Native tribes have remained intact and active. They and the ANCSCA corporations have struggled to make ANCSCA work. These corporations, the format was foreign to Alaska Natives, but through hard work and perseverance, they have succeeded. The regional and a few of the village corporations since have become some of the most important business enterprises in Alaska, employing thousands of people and generating billions of dollars in annual revenue from business activities around the world. Yet our people continue to struggle with ongoing threats to our basic rights, most notably our right to feed our families through traditional subsistence practices, our right to protect our communities from violence, and the ability to provide our children with adequate education and health care in their home communities. Just last month, as John Echohawk noted, we won an important battle in the long fight to protect our people's right to traditional subsistence hunting and fishing. The Supreme Court denied a petition by the state of Alaska to overturn the federal rules promulgated in 1999 that provide a subsistence priority during times of shortage for rural Alaskans. In this latest and hopefully final stage of a 19-year legal battle, our own state stood against the rights of its Native people, demonstrating again the power and importance of federal engagement in the protection of the First People across our country. Although we have seen progress on many of the issues that Senator Inouye addressed over his years of service, there's still a long way to go. In Senator Inouye's own beloved home state, Native Hawaiians still struggle to achieve federal recognition. They make great strides within their state with their state legislature, but they still need to carve out their path as far as federal recognition. It was a friendship between two individuals that so many years ago that introduced us to Senator Daniel Inouye. His friendship with Senator Inouye introduced Senator Inouye to our people. I used to tell Senator Inouye that in many ways he was Senator Stevens' conscience. Whenever he told us no and Senator Inouye said yes, then Senator Stevens would change. And Senator Inouye, and I'll say this because Ken is in the background, Senator Inouye would drop his voice and say, Julie, he's a good man, don't say that. But we have so many stories like that. But yes, that's what we used to say. He was his conscience. During Senator Inouye's tenure, we saw incredible progress for our people, improvements in maternal and infant health, education, living conditions. Senator Inouye helped give us a seat at the table, and through this simple act of asserting the value of our contributions, and especially to those conversations that addressed our rights, he had a tremendous impact on our futures. When I look back at our work together with Senators Inouye and Stevens, perhaps the most important besides our settlement and retaining our land is the building of the new hospitals and village clinics that will impact our people in life and death situations. I remember taking Senator Inouye to see our old Anchorage hospital that was weakened by the 1964 earthquake. He saw that it was old and run down and really just a converted tuberculosis center, and reaffirmed his commitment to get a new hospital. I can remember taking Senator Inouye to Kotzebue and seeing the old Kotzebue hospital. He saw how that you could have a hospital gurney in the hallway and let go of it and it would run down the hallway because the floors were so uneven due to frost heaves. So he and Senator Stevens got to work and ensured we got new hospitals in Anchorage, Fairbanks, Kotzebue, Nome, and now even Barrow, and more than 100 new village clinics. They also ensured that the self-determination was advanced in the Native management of the health system, so we run that whole health system. It took time and resources, but we now have better access to health care because of their efforts. Our people live longer, our children do not die as often within their first year of life, and all the major indicators of life have improved. We still have a thread of disparity on all indicators, but Senator Inouye's life work mattered. I want to take a moment to appreciate where we are here today, our very presence in this glowing nation's capital, enjoying the beauty of this building in which Senator Inouye worked so hard to achieve. And I also want to thank the Office of Hawaiian Affairs and the National Council of the National Museum of the American Indian for bringing us together to honor an incredible man and recommit ourselves to continuing his great work. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all you do to advance the rights and privileges of all Americans. We also want to thank the family and the people of Hawaii for sharing Senator Inouye with us. Thank you very much.